Imagine this for a moment. 1 second, a person is right there, living their normal life, surrounded by people who know them, and the next second, they're gone. No sound, no struggle, no evidence. Just a blank space where a human being used to be. Cases like this don't just raise questions. They shatter our very sense of reality. Because if someone can vanish without a trace, it makes us wonder, how safe are we really? This is not just another disappearance. This is the disappearance that defies all logic. The person at the heart of this mystery wasn't some celebrity or someone living a dangerous double life. In fact, that's what makes this case so unsettling. They were just an ordinary individual, someone with a routine, a family, and a life that seemed completely normal. Friends described them as reliable, the kind of person you could set your watch to because they always showed up where they were supposed to. And yet, this very normal, very predictable life was interrupted in a way that makes absolutely no sense. One moment, they were living like any one of us would, and then suddenly, they stepped into history as the main character in a story that still baffles investigators, experts, and anyone who hears about it. The person at the center of this strange case wasn't a celebrity, a criminal, or anyone who lived a dangerous life. They were someone ordinary, just like you and me. They had a daily routine, a circle of friends, and people who cared deeply about them. In fact, the more you learn about them, the harder it becomes to understand how they could simply disappear. They weren't reckless. They weren't running from anything. Their life seemed stable, predictable even. Friends called them dependable. Family described them as the kind of person who always checked in, who never left people worried. They had future plans, things to look forward to, things they were excited about. Nothing suggested that they would willingly walk away from it all. And maybe that's what makes this story so chilling. Because when someone who has no reason to vanish suddenly does, it leaves us with questions that claw at the edges of logic. Who could have wanted them gone? How could an ordinary day turn into the last day anyone ever saw them? From the outside, their life looked safe and familiar. But hidden within that normal picture was the beginning of a mystery so deep that even today it feels almost impossible to explain. It started like any other day. Nothing about it seemed unusual at first. The weather was ordinary, the people around them carried on with their routines, and by all accounts, life was moving forward just as it always had. But for the person at the center of this story, this day would be the last one anyone could ever trace. They were seen going about their normal activities, speaking with someone, heading toward a familiar place, maybe even smiling as if nothing was wrong. Witnesses recall nothing strange, nothing alarming, and that's where the mystery deepens, because somewhere in the middle of this very normal day, everything simply stopped. There was no scream, no sign of struggle, no suspicious person lurking in the background. It was as if the world swallowed them whole in an instant. One moment they were there, living, breathing, interacting, and in the next, they had slipped out of existence. No phone calls, no messages, not even the smallest trace left behind to point investigators in any direction. What makes this so disturbing is how quickly ordinary life turned into something unexplainable. How can a regular day transform into the beginning of a mystery that continues to leave people unsettled years later? That is the puzzle that haunts everyone who looks into this case. When the disappearance was first noticed, the reaction was immediate. At first, there was confusion. Maybe they had just taken a different route home. Maybe they were running late. Maybe their phone had died. People always try to find the simplest explanation because the mind doesn't want to accept that someone can just vanish. But as the hours passed, that small concern grew into something heavier. Calls went unanswered. No one had seen them. Not a single friend or stranger could say where they had gone. That's when worry turned into action. Family and friends spread out, retracing their last known steps, checking every place they might have gone. Police were notified, and soon a full search began. Authorities combed through the area, streets, nearby fields, wooded patches, and abandoned spaces. Helicopters scanned from above, search dogs sniffed for even the faintest trail, and volunteers joined in, hoping to find anything that might lead to an answer. But nothing came up. No footprints leading away, no items left behind, no security footage that could explain the missing minutes. It was as if the world had erased every sign of their existence. The strangest part was how quickly the search hit a dead end. Usually, even in the most complicated cases, there's something, a clue, a rumor, a piece of evidence to chase. But here, there was nothing at all. It was this emptiness, this silence that shook people the most. How could an entire community search so hard, so fast, and still come up with absolutely no trace? The immediate search, instead of solving the mystery, only made it darker. As investigators dug deeper, they began to uncover details that only raised more questions. In cases like this, you'd expect at least one clear lead, a dropped item, a suspicious footprint, a piece of clothing left behind. But what they found instead were fragments of information that didn't add up. Strange pieces of a puzzle that seemed to make no picture at all. Some people claimed they saw the missing person in two different places at almost the same time, accounts that simply couldn't be true. Others insisted they remembered a strange noise or an unusual figure in the area, but when police followed up, nothing could be confirmed. Even security cameras, which should have given answers, only made the mystery worse, showing them one moment, then nothing. It was as if the recording itself had gaps that couldn't be explained. There were also personal belongings that seemed out of place. A bag or a small item left neatly where it shouldn't have been, as if it was deliberately placed. Was it a clue or a distraction? No one could say for sure. And then came the silence. No digital trail, no phone activity, no bank records. In today's world, almost everyone leaves behind an electronic footprint. But here, it was like someone had hit erase on an entire life. These strange, unconnected clues only fueled speculation. Was it foul play? Was it something staged? Or was there an element at work that we simply don't have the tools to understand? Every piece of information pointed in a different direction, and yet none of them led closer to the truth. The more the case unfolded, the clearer it became that this wasn't just an ordinary disappearance. It was something far stranger, something that refused to be solved by logic alone. When a case makes no sense, people try to fill the silence with theories, and over time, this disappearance has collected more than a few. Some sound reasonable. Others drift into the realm of the unbelievable. But each one tries, in its own way, to explain how a person could vanish without a single trace. The first and most common theory is the simplest, that this was an accident. Maybe they wandered off, became lost, or suffered an injury somewhere no one has thought to look. It's a possibility, but it struggles to explain how an entire search team with dogs and helicopters could find absolutely nothing. Then there's the idea of foul play. Could someone have planned this? Maybe the person was taken, hidden away so carefully that investigators never stood a chance of uncovering the truth. This theory is haunting, because if it's true, it means whoever was responsible carried out the perfect crime. But some people believe the story goes even deeper. There are whispers about government cover-ups, about secret experiments, about disappearances that link together in ways officials would rather not admit. And then there are those who go further still, into the realm of the paranormal. They talk about portals, about the earth itself swallowing people, or forces that don't follow the rules of our world. What's fascinating is how each theory, no matter how strange, has its followers. Because when the facts refuse to give answers, the imagination takes over. And in this case, with logic failing at every turn, imagination is all people have left. Today, the case remains as puzzling as it was on the very first day. Years have passed, and still, no solid evidence has surfaced. Officially, the file is marked as unsolved, a word that sounds simple, but carries the heavy weight of frustration, confusion, and heartbreak. Every so often, a new tip comes in. Someone claims to have seen a person who looks just like them in a distant town. A strange item surfaces that seems connected. An anonymous message reaches investigators with promises of hidden truths. But each lead, no matter how promising, eventually collapses under scrutiny. It's like chasing shadows. The closer you think you're getting, the faster it slips away. For the family, the waiting has become its own kind of torment. Not knowing is worse than the worst outcome, because there is no closure, no final page to the story. The questions never stop. Are they alive somewhere, living under a different name? Were they taken, hidden from the world? Or did something truly unexplainable happen that day? Even the authorities, with all their resources, have admitted the case is unlike anything they've faced. Files remain open, evidence boxes gather dust, and still, the mystery sits there, daring anyone to try and make sense of it. And so the disappearance continues to live on, not just in police reports, but in whispered conversations, late-night theories, and the restless thoughts of everyone who hears about it. Because the truth is, this isn't just a case that's unsolved. It's a case that seems unsolvable. What makes this story so haunting is not just the disappearance itself, but the silence that followed. Usually, time reveals something, a clue overlooked, a confession, even a piece of evidence that finally surfaces. But here, time has given us nothing. And that absence almost feels louder than any answer could. People still whisper about it, still debate what might have happened. Some believe the truth is out there, buried under secrets, or lost to mistakes that can never be undone. Others are convinced this is one of those rare moments where our understanding of the world simply isn't enough, where something beyond logic touched reality for just a moment, and then disappeared with the person at the center of it all. And that's why this case lingers, because it doesn't just make us wonder what happened to one individual. It makes us question the very rules we live by. How can someone vanish so completely? If it happened to them, could it happen again? Could it happen to anyone? The mystery remains, stubborn and unshaken, waiting for the day when, if ever, the truth finally comes to light. Until then, it will remain one of the strangest disappearances in history, the kind that defies all logic. And so, we're left with nothing but questions. A person who should still be here simply isn't. No matter how many searches were launched, no matter how many theories were built, the truth remains out of reach. Maybe one day new evidence will surface. Maybe someone, somewhere, knows more than they've ever said. But until that day, this story will remain one of the most baffling disappearances we've ever known. A mystery that continues to challenge everything we believe about logic and reality. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think really happened? Do you believe there's a simple explanation we're all overlooking? Or do you think this case is proof that some mysteries will never be solved? Share your thoughts in the comments. I love reading your theories. And if you enjoy exploring stories like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss the next mystery. Because as strange as this case is, it's far from the only one. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one. Bye for now.